Hey everyone, and welcome to today's explainer. We're jumping right into NCERT Class 10, Chapter 1, and honestly, what a fantastic chapter this is. We're going to explore a deeply moving story about absolute, unquestionable faith, and then contrast that with the raw, elemental power of nature through some brilliant poetry by Robert Frost. It's an incredible ride through hope, some pretty bitter irony, and the absolute extremes of human emotion. So, let's get into it.
But first, I want you to think about something for just a second. Where do you put your trust when you've lost, well, absolutely everything? It's a tough question, right? But it's the emotional core of our first story today. It's a tale that really forces us to examine what happens when nature just wipes out our livelihood, and literally the only thing left to lean on is blind, unwavering faith.
Okay, here's our game plan for today's lesson. We'll start with the valley and storm, move right into a farmer's faith, and then unpack the kindness and irony that follows. After that, we'll switch gears from prose to poetry, breaking down Robert Frost's Dust of Snow and Fire and Ice.
Section 1. The Valley and Storm. All right, picture this. Imagine a solitary house sitting right on the crest of a low hill in a gorgeous Latin American valley. Our main guy here is a farmer named Lencho. Down below his house, his field of ripe corn is dotted with flowers, which, by the way, practically guarantees a great harvest. The only thing this field needs right now is a good downpour, or even just a light shower. So all morning, Lencho is just staring at the sky toward the northeast, eagerly waiting for that rain to come nourish his crops, and basically secure his family's survival for the whole year. And guess what? The rain actually comes. Lencho is absolutely thrilled. He looks at those drops falling from the sky and literally calls them new coins. To him, the big drops are 10-cent pieces, and the little ones are fives. It's pure prosperity falling from the clouds. But then things take a turn. Almost instantly, that promise of new coins morphs into a completely devastating storm of frozen pearls. A massive wind whips up, and for an entire hour, huge hailstones just pound the valley. The devastation we're talking about here is absolute. The text says, "Not a leaf remained on the trees. A plague of locusts would have left more than this." Lencho is just standing there, in the middle of his ruined, white field. Everything he worked for, completely wiped out in a matter of an hour. His livelihood, his corn, the flowers, all of it just gone. You can really feel his profound grief in that moment.
Section 2. A farmer's unwavering faith. So how do you even begin to react to that kind of natural disaster? With his family literally facing starvation, Lencho has exactly one robust hope left. And to really grasp this, we need to look at the two central figures of our story, Lencho and the town's postmaster.
Let's look at Lencho first. He's described as an ox of a man. He's this incredibly resilient, hardworking farmer who just toils day and night in the dirt. But interestingly, despite all that heavy physical labor, he's literate. He knows how to write. He's also a very simple, deeply devout man with this unquestioning belief in a higher power. And it's that sheer determination to survive that drives him to do something honestly pretty unthinkable. He decides to write a letter directly to God.
And he knows exactly what he needs, 100 pesos. That's the specific, highly practical amount he calculates. He writes in this letter that he needs 100 pesos to resow his fields and keep his family from starving until the next crop comes in. He doesn't ask for millions, just what he needs. He addresses the envelope simply to God, drops it in the mail, and just goes home, trusting with absolute certainty that the Almighty is going to deliver.
Section 3. Human kindness and bitter irony.
Now let's jump over to the town post office. Imagine being the postman pulling a letter out of the box addressed to God. Obviously, he's never seen anything like this in his entire career, so he takes it straight to his boss. The postmaster is this larger, very amiable, friendly guy. At first, he just cracks up laughing because, it is pretty amusing, right? But then he gets really serious. He is profoundly struck by the sheer depth of Lencho's faith. So this pragmatic, compassionate guy decides to actually do something. He doesn't want to shatter that beautiful belief. So he asks his employees to pitch in, he dips into his own salary, and he pulls together this incredible act of charity. He stuffs the cash in an envelope and signs it with just one word, God.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Despite his absolute best efforts, rallying his staff and friends, the postmaster could only scrape together 70 pesos. It is such a noble, selfless thing to do, but it still falls short of the 100 pesos Lencho specifically asked for.
Now, to truly appreciate what happens next, we have to talk about irony. Irony is basically an unexpected situation that's strange or amusing specifically because it is the exact opposite of what you'd expect to happen. Keep that in mind because it perfectly sets up Lencho's shocking reaction when he rolls up to the post office the next Sunday, grabs his envelope, and counts the cash. He isn't surprised to get money from God. He totally expected that. What he is furious that it's only 70 pesos. Which leads to this incredible, bitterly ironic moment in his second letter. Get this. He writes, "Send me the rest, but don't send it through the mail because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks." Wow, right? Talk about a twist. Lencho blindly trusts the divine, but he is incredibly suspicious of the actual living humans who just selflessly emptied their pockets to save his family. He keeps his faith intact, sure, but he completely misses the very real human goodness standing right in front of him.
Section 4. Dust of Snow. Healing Nature.
All right, moving on. While A Letter to God showed nature absolutely destroying a man's livelihood, Robert Frost's short poem, Dust of Snow, completely flips the script. Frost's choice of imagery here is super fascinating. Normally when poets want to talk about joy, they use beautiful things, right? Singing birds, majestic oak trees, things like that. But Frost uses unconventional, traditionally dark omens, a crow, which usually screams bad luck, and a hemlock tree, which is literally a highly poisonous plant. Yet, he uses these dark symbols to map out a sudden, joyful uplift in mood.
He writes that the way a crow shook down the dust of snow from a hemlock tree has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. It's brilliant. It shows how just a simple, tiny, completely random act of nature, just some soft snow falling off a branch, can profoundly shift your perspective. It pulls the poet right out of his regret and drops him into contentment. Nature, even wrapped in its darkest symbols, still has this incredible power to heal.
Section 5. Fire and Ice. World's End.
In this second poem, Frost really scales things up. We're talking apocalyptic proportions here, the literal end of the world. He uses two core metaphors, comparing the elemental extremes of nature to the destructive extremes of human emotion. So, fire stands for rampant desire, intense passion, lust, and greed. On the flip side, ice symbolizes hatred, coldness, rigidity, and complete indifference. Frost is basically asking us, which of these human flaws is actually going to be the one to destroy us?
If we look at the mechanics, the poem uses a really tight, simple rhyme scheme. A, B, A, B, C, B, C, B. The language is incredibly direct, no messing around. Frost starts by acknowledging that fire, our human desire and greed, is a highly likely candidate to kick off the end of the world. But his cynical yet totally brilliant conclusion is that the quiet, creeping coldness of ice, our human hatred and indifference, is honestly just as adequate and lethal. Fire might burn fast, but ice, well, ice destroys just as effectively in the end.
So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with these dualities to chew on. Does Lencho's extreme faith make him hopelessly blind to the very real human kindness of that postmaster? And when you look at the world around you today, which element, the fiery passion of greed or the icy coldness of indifference, do you think is genuinely more destructive? Keep those questions floating in your mind as you continue to analyze literature on a deeper level. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and keep exploring.